Hello students, once again I welcome you all. Presently we are dealing with Girish Karnad's Tughlaq, and so far we completed 10 scenes from this particular play. Now in this class I am going to deal with scene number 11, and we will definitely come to know about the further development of this plot. Let us look at scene number 11 now. Friends, the arrival of Ghiyasuddin Abbasid is announced there in the fort of Dawlatabad. As you know very well, in the scene number 10, we concluded that Muhammad bin Tughlaq is totally degenerated, disillusioned, and frustrated in political life. That has also affected his personal life. He came to know that the holy person Ghiyasuddin Abbasid is going to visit the fort, and it will definitely purify his region. Ghiyasuddin Abbasid will bless and purify Dawlatabad, and his blessings would definitely change the fate of the Sultanate. As soon as it was known to everybody, especially in the administrative hierarchy of the state, all the citizens were requested to gather in a large number in order to welcome the holy man, that is Ghiyasuddin Abbasid. Prayers will be revived on the day, and the followers of Islam will pray 5 times a day as they enjoyed before. As you know, almost 5 years before or so, Muhammad bin Tughlaq banned the prayers, especially the public prayers, in his state. And now it is going to be revived after the arrival of Ghiyasuddin Abbasid. Now I would like to read out a dialogue. This is a holy day for us, a day of joy, and its glory will be crowned by the fact that the public prayer, which has been mute in our land these 5 years, will be started again from next Friday. Henceforth, every Muslim will pray 5 times a day as enjoined by the Holy Quran, and declared himself a faithful slave of the Lord. This is the dialogue which is uttered by Muhammad bin Tughlaq, and now he is trying to promote himself as one of the faithful slaves of the Lord Almighty. So this dialogue will let you know that what actually happened in the course of 5 years since Muhammad bin Tughlaq shifted his capital city from Delhi to Daulatabad. When he started from Delhi, I think that was the time when he banned the public prayers, especially for the Muslims. But now, after 5 years, he announced that the holy man, the descendant of Khalifa, is going to visit Daulatabad, and in order to welcome him and give him due respect, the Sultan ordered to revive the public prayers in his Sultanate. See the change here now. We can compare and contrast the situation. Already I told you the region which was politically controlled by Muhammad bin Tughlaq was going through a bad phase in the administrative and political point of view. Muhammad bin Tughlaq was a complete failure, and that's why the response from the public for that particular call to gather at a place in order to welcome Ghiyasuddin Abbasid was ignored by the people. Crowds of citizens are seen, of course, in the plain ground outside the fort of Daulatabad, but they are disgusted with the maladministration of Muhammad bin Tughlaq. In fact, they were hungry for food. They needed some other minimum facilities required. But on the contrary, the king was imposing the public prayers on them. There was not a single grain in the royal granary, and that was the real fact. That was the utter reality when the people were facing shortage of the food grain. In the village, they have to starve or to pay 20 coins of silver for a fistful of wheat. Roads are lined with skeletons. They have to eat the barks of the trees or the burnt strips of the skins of the animals. To them, the arrival of Abbasid is totally meaningless, and the revival of prayer is also of no use. Now they need the minimum requirements in order to live their lives. But the Sultan was not really providing the most necessity of the people. On the other hand, he was trying to deviate the matter by reviving the prayer for the Muslims. The people, those who gathered there in the plain ground outside the fort of Daulatabad, started fighting among themselves for petty issues. And they were ready to kill each other for no cause. So that was the situation of the entire state. And here you could see that the Sultan, that is Muhammad bin Tughlaq, was not really in a position to address all these problems which were faced by the people of his Sultanate. There is music and announcement of the arrival from one side of Muhammad and of Abbasid and his entourage from the other side. Muhammad bin Tughlaq stares at Aziz in his guise of Abbasid. He is not quite sure of what is happening. The Hindu woman whose child had died steps out of the crowd and stares at Aziz. She seems to recognize him. The Sultan embraces Aziz most warmly and welcomes him, taking him to be Abbasid, and says that the dust of his feet on his head can save him now. Friends, from this particular description, you might have understood one thing, that Aziz may be having certain expertise in disguising in different forms, but he could not actually deceive the Hindu woman whose child is no more now because of Aziz. To some extent, Muhammad bin Tughlaq also recognized Aziz as soon as he could see a man in the robes of Khalifa. Probably the same man was there in the court who lodged a complaint against the state and won the case against the Sultan. He also had a doubt about him, and that's why Muhammad bin Tughlaq was continuously staring at Aziz. Second, the Hindu lady, she came out of the crowd, started crying, continuously stared at Aziz, and blamed that this man who is presenting himself as the Khalifa or the descendant of Khalifa is not the original Khalifa, but the man responsible for the death of her child. Now you see here, Khalifa, that is the descendant of Khalifa, Ghiyasuddin Abbasid, is welcomed by Muhammad bin Tughlaq. Of course, that was a warm welcome by the Sultan, but the other side, the man who was being held by the Sultan was no one but Aziz, a shrewd person. But anyhow, the welcome ceremony is done. The woman continued to cry, but nobody heard her cry. And ultimately, Ghiyasuddin Abbasid, actually our Aziz, has been welcomed by the Sultan. See here now, what does the Sultan say? Welcome to our city, Your Holiness. Welcome to our poor land. My kingdom rejoices at the arrival of your gracious presence. We have waited for years for this joyful moment. Our streets have waited in silence for the moment when the call to the holy prayer will ring in them again. And each year has been a century. We have waited long, Your Holiness, and our aims have become shadow that entwine round our feet. They have become our dumbness and deprive us of prayer. They have become the fairy sun and burnt up our crops. Now the moment has come for me and my people to rejoice. Only you can save me now. Your Holiness, only the dust of your feet on my head can save me now. And this is how we could come to know that the state of affairs of the Sultan were not that really good. In nutshell, we can say the citizens of the state were hungry for food. There was drought and famine in the state. Many people were suffering with different types of ailments, and so on and so on. We can say that the entire Sultanate was affected by something or the other. And that's the reason the failure of Muhammad bin Tughlaq as the emperor, as the Sultan, is proven here. He falls at the feet of Ghiyasuddin Abbasid. As soon as it is done by the Sultan, everyone also kneels down. The Sultan gets up, they embrace again, and they depart. The Hindu woman cries out that it is the man who had killed her child. She screams and goes on screaming for her dead child. People don't understand her at all. They think that the Sultan had murdered her child. They shout that they want food and not any prayer. A soldier tries to silence them, but they want him to kill them. There is a confusion all around among the citizens. The soldiers are mobbed and beaten. The soldiers in turn beat the citizens. And this is the beginning of the riots which will tear the Sultan to pieces. And this is the end of scene number 11 also. See the panic conditions over there. As I said right in the beginning, people actually did not want the revival of prayer because filling their stomach with food was the most essential thing for them. But the Sultan and his granary did not have sufficient amount of or the quantity of food available for the citizens. And instead of providing the food, Sultan was imposing the revival of prayer upon the subjects of his state. And that's why the people got irritated. They started rebelling against the Sultan. They had a brawl with the soldiers of Sultan. And in that confusion, they literally started beating up the soldiers of Sultan. Immediately, the soldiers of Sultan also retaliated, and there was a total confusion all around. And that was the actual beginning of the riots, which would tear the Sultan to pieces. And this is the end of scene number 11. So I hope you understood this particular scene. Now we proceed with scene number 12. As the curtain rises, Aziz is seen eating some fruits in the royal palace, or you can say in one of the rooms of the royal palace. Azam tries to convince Aziz that we are actually cheating the Sultan, and if at all the fact is revealed, nobody can anticipate our future. Similarly, Azam tells Aziz, who is disguised as the descendant of Khalifa, that Azam, he himself is tired of cheating and playing tricks on the people. The people of the city are now like the mad dogs, and at any moment of time or any point of time, the people may retaliate. They have been screaming, burning houses, killing one another, and that has been continued almost for the last whole week. In nutshell, you can say that was the cry of pain, and that you could easily see among the subjects of the Sultan. He has twice gone out, that is Azam, for a couple of times. He went outside the palace, and he particularly adopted or took up the secret passage and visited the city for a couple of times. Now you see what your Azam says. I quote the textbook. Azam pronounces this dialogue. The streets there are like little fingers and littered with dead bodies. There are corpses and flies. It all shrinks. The Sultan is mad. On the night we came here, I saw no nervous. I was so nervous. I couldn't sleep. So I was standing by the window, looking at those heaps. They looked like giant ant hills in the moonlight. Suddenly, I saw a shadow moving among them. I startled. It was a man wandering alone in the garden. He went to a heap, stood there for half an hour, still as a rock. Then he dug into the heaps with his fists, raised his fists, and let the coins tickle out. It was frightening. And you know who he was? Your Sultan. He does that every night, every single night. It's like witchcraft. See, this dialogue, which is pronounced by Azam, tells us so many things. So many things in the sense how the things were manipulated by Sultan Muhammad bin Tughlaq. On the one side, he is crying a foul that there is a counterfeit currency in the state that is weakening the economy of the country. And on the other hand, he himself is collecting the counterfeit currency and hiding it in his own garden. That is all a contradiction. The one side he says he is unable to manage the food grain, but on the other side he continued to impose taxes upon the people. One side he continues to say that he is a faithful follower of Islam. On the other side, he himself is involved in the killing of many Muslims. So all these contradictions are really making him mentally or spiritually degenerate. And the dialogue that I read just before, which is uttered by Azam, the associate of Aziz, also gives us the clear picture of the state of affairs in the Sultanate of Muhammad bin Tughlaq. Simply we can conclude neither the Sultan was happy and nor the subject. And this was the political scenario of the entire Sultanate. The situation has come to this level now that no one can trust him. He keeps on watching and watching the hips of counterfeit vines in the garden. Azam says that the man whom I saw in the middle of the night there in the garden collecting counterfeit wines, that man was no one but the Sultan himself. In fact, nobody will believe if at all it is even conveyed to someone. And Azam is also frightened of telling anything about it. Here we can say that if at all Azam says anything, no one will trust him. But the fact is, the Sultan continued to walk and do the same, especially with the counterfeit currency there in the state. After watching that scene, Azam was frightened and terrified. And he wanted to get rid of the situation and run away from the place. So it was the time for them to leave. And here you see now, I proceed with, he murders them in large numbers. So it was time for them to leave. He has bribed 2 servants of the palace to bring 2 horses. He intends leaving the fort that very day, and Aziz should also come with him. Aziz protests and calls him a fool and an idiot. He thinks the fort is the safest place for them to live at the time. But Azam does not heed his advice. He does not stay and leaves the fort. Aziz calls him an idiot, but Azam did not follow him and go away. See these conditions here. When the entire scenario was minutely observed by Azam, Azam himself came to a conclusion that he should not continue to be the associate of Aziz, number 1. And number 2, he should stop deceiving the Sultan, because he was really worried of the consequences. He was frightened and terrified. If at all Sultan came to know about it, the kind of revenge will be taken upon them will be the worst ever in the world. And that's why he tells Aziz, who is in disguise as Abbasid, that already I have bribed a couple of soldiers there. I asked them to manage for 2 horses, one for myself and another for you, and we will run away from the place. We won't be safe here in the fort of Daulatabad. If at all our fact is revealed, you cannot even imagine what kind of punishment will be given by the Sultan to us. So I am no way interested to continue with you. If at all you want to come with me, let us come. Otherwise, stay back. 2 horses are ready for us. I am leaving now. So Aziz tries to convince him, but Azam is now determined to move on. And on the contrary, you see, Aziz calls him a fool. Aziz calls him an idiot. But whereas Azam seems to be a composed man, and he keeps on realizing whatever mistakes he is doing in the company of Aziz. And ultimately, Azam leaves Aziz alone, and he went away from the particular place, and he is trying to hide out somewhere else, maybe much safer than this particular palace of Muhammad bin Tughlaq. And as soon as your Azam leaves the place or leaves the fort, this is the end of scene number 12. So maybe in my next class, I will deal with the another scene. Thank you very much.